Greetings and welcome to the 4th week in review video, covering the channel's gaming shenanigans from Monday the 24th through to Sunday the 30th of August. Now, starting as ever with the week's first taste, we saw the conclusion to our TerraTech mini-series. Having built up a modest base and even made our very own helper AI, though it was quite short-lived, we rounded up the series with an endurance run. Taking only the parts we could scavenge following battles, we blazed a trail across the desert in search of bigger battles and more interesting components. A fitting end to a very fun mini-series, and based on the feedback I've received, it's quite likely that we'll be seeing more TerraTech in the future. Additionally, we continued our reassembly tournament with Round 3 and Group C's battle. This was an interesting one as it included some of the larger ships in the tournament, post-part cost update, and so it served as a good tool to judge whether the changes in prices to ship components really reflected their value in-game. There were a few surprise twists and a few instances where the AI apparently was being very derpy, but I thoroughly enjoyed all of the battles and I hope you did too. In my Terraria co-op series, Metasapia and I try our hand at beekeeping and find that it's not nearly as easy as we'd hoped. Suitably humbled by Her Majesty, we turn back and consider our options before deciding that better armor and weapons would likely be the key to defeating the Queen Bee. So, in the following episodes, you'll be able to follow along as we plumb the depths of the world, following paths both old and new as we search for the entrance to hell. Now, we also saw the long-awaited return of my Pillars of Eternity series, where we rejoined Glindur the Chanter and his band of dapper, though comically mismatched adventurers as they fought their way clear of the sanitarium to explain the grim turn of events to the institution's master. In the following episodes, we'll see as Glindur returns to his recently inherited home, Caed Nua, to fend off an attack from the Leaden Key before answering a rather cryptic summons. And speaking of summons, regrettably, it seems I missed mine to join my rambunctious co-hosts for last week's Factorio and Mass recordings. Kindly, Arumba sent me the footage from the recording set, so I was able to share their shenanigans with you, but thankfully, I am not long away from the series, and with this week's episodes, you'll see my return where I busy myself putting to right some of the heinous wrongs that were committed about the factory in my absence. Though Factorio does not have the monopoly on rambunctious co-hosts. Indeed, we saw 2 fresh series begin last week, one for Robocraft, where I have invited 3 well-known Roboteers to join me for some casual platoon shenanigans in Robocraft for fine fellows. We start the series off with bots of a modest 100,000 Robo rank or thereabouts, and enjoy a mix of battle arena and team deathmatch battles, all while bantering about the game. And secondly, in From the Depths, Allies Adrift, I am joined by Enter Elysium as we begin a fresh campaign across the lands of Nita. We've taken a different approach to the early game than I've considered in the past, with a submerged base with slight rapture overtones, though it didn't take us long before we distracted ourselves with constructing monstrous defences and comically huge crystal farms. And in the coming episodes, the over-the-top constructions will continue, and we'll see our first engagements against the Hodgepodge Deepwater Guard as well. Though in my single-player campaign, the Deepwater Guard are no longer a concern, as we've finally put the coffin nail into, well, the museum fleet, which is all that remains of the faction. Instead, we now turn our attentions to the castle ships of the Onyx Watch. But that wraps up the past week's gaming shenanigans, and with it, this episode of The Week in Review. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, warmly welcome any feedback you might have to offer, either on this video or any of the series I've mentioned. But until next time, do take care.